This week's Torah portion is called Parashat Teruma. Yesterday, many of us watched the funeral of the Bibas family in Israel. There were two little children and their mother who were taken captive by Hamas and were murdered. And we watched that funeral. But I'd like to connect the two little boys that were laid to rest yesterday. Two little children that exemplify, that teach us about goodness and about love and about passion and about exuberance. In their lives, that's who they were, little children, without sin, without any untoward motivations, just pure, innocent, good children. In this week's Torah portion, we read about the holy ark that is to be constructed in the middle of the tabernacle that the Jewish people are building to create a space, to create a relationship with God that we build. The beginning of creation, God created the world for us to live in God's world, and now we are enjoined to participate and to give, to create a space in our world for God. And at the center of this space, of this tabernacle, is the ark with these two little cherubim, these two little cherubs, these two little children on top. So perhaps we could focus a little bit on what it is that they come to teach us. Why are there two little children, little angels on top of the ark? We saw these angels in the Garden of Eden when Adam and Eve eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and they're expelled from the garden. They are, so to speak, more distant from God. In the garden, they had a very close and intimate relationship with God. And after they ate from that tree, they were expelled such that the relationship they had with God was a little bit more distant. And they were prevented from re-entering the garden by the cherubs who would not let them back in. And perhaps they are commentators. This is because Adam and Eve had to learn a lesson. They had to learn how to merit having that relationship with God that they had at the beginning. And so too, we also have to merit that relationship. And how do we do that? Perhaps it's by looking at the innocence of the children. It's about seeing how good they are. And it's about seeing how pure and passionate they are. And maybe if we learn those lessons, we'll be welcomed back into a relationship with God like we had in the Garden of Eden. In this week's Torah portion, we're taught to give. We're taught to give of our resources. We're taught to give of our hearts. Open our heart. Where is God to be found? Wherever we let him in. And the goal is relationship with God, a closeness with God, so that we feel protected, so that we feel loved, so that we understand what the purpose of our lives are. And when we can do that, we can live with simcha. So perhaps these two little cherubs on top of the ark are teaching us a lesson of how to make space for God in our lives by being good, by giving, by loving, by doing God's will in this world.